I'd like to call to order the January 13th, 2026 Forest Grove School District Board of Directors meeting at 5:33 p.m. We'll start with a roll call of board members present. Risa Franco, present. Kate Grandusky, here. Pete Truex, here. Maya Andrade, here. Christy Kotke is here, and Alma Lozano is excused for tonight. I'd like to ask us all to rise for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I'm looking for approval or amendment to tonight's agenda.
Madam Chair, I move to approve with the following amendment tonight's agenda. I would like to add a spot for a brief presentation and bye and a heartfelt thank you to Viking Cafe.
Been moved. Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, we will take a moment. I'm going to introduce Jill Hurdle and members of the Viking Cafe. If you guys would mind using the mic to just introduce yourselves, and we would really like to thank each one of you as a school board, in addition to the services from Viking Cafe members and their parents who have supported as well on School Board Appreciation Week. You can see up here we have these wonderful posters handmade by students, and I think there's going to be more on that later, but especially taking the time for those of you students who came tonight to serve us some coffee and present us with an amazing Viking Cafe mug that was designed, and Jill will talk about this a little bit, by a student. And take it away, Jill. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for letting us come, and we appreciate the school board so much for their support of inclusion. The mugs that we presented tonight were designed by a student, and we're just so grateful for all the talents and creativity that is allowed through inclusion. So, but it wouldn't be possible. I'm just a teacher. The students are the ones that make it happen every day. So I'd like to pass it over to Braylon to say a quick thank you.
Thank you, Jill. It was very well said. We just want to extend our heartfelt thank you to you guys, the school board, for all that you do for us. A lot of our classes at the high school that promote inclusion would not be possible without your dedication and your efforts. So we really, really appreciate you and all of your work to help support us to make inclusion happen within the high school. Going off of that, we just want to share a little bit about why inclusion is important to us. And we'll just go down the line and each share one thing that inclusion has impacted us and how it's changing Forest Grove High School for the better. For me, inclusion has allowed me to make so many new diverse connections and allow me to gain a bunch of different perspectives that I would never have before.
Mine is going to a lot of games.
My favorite part about inclusion is that it allows us to see everybody's unique perspective and hear from many different viewpoints about what they think and what they value.
My favorite is keeping score for the unified basketball games. Make it fun.
All right, well, thank you again so much. We really appreciate your support, and thank you for letting us come tonight. And anybody else that needs coffee here?
I think we'll end with a school board cheers to the Viking Cafe. Cheers to you. And thank you again for your time tonight and starting us off on a positive note.
And each one of these have something interesting to say on them. Really.
Yes, one of our favorite students loves to volunteer. And so she takes a whole box and she does that and then brings it back to us and gets a new box. So
They're just wonderful.
she does a wonderful job. Madison Vegan. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you so much. Anybody else?
All right. I think we're going to move on to a student representative report with Maya.
You guys can hear me. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope we all had a restful break and a great start to the new year. January marks our final month before the end of the semester, and across the campus, students are fully immersed in wrapping up their classes and making sure they wrap up with great grades. Many of them are preparing for finals, completing major projects, and working hard to finish the semester on a strong note. Earlier this month, Dr. West had the opportunity to meet with a group of students, discuss future plans for our school and review the areas of improvement. The students who participated would like to extend their gratitude to you, Dr. West, for allowing us to have a space where we can really express what we feel. A lot of them are really, they appreciate you a lot for taking the time to listen to their concerns and reaffirming the strong support system that exists within our district. Following that meeting, our ASB and LIA, which are both major leadership organizations in our school, have decided to take some of the notes that we heard at the meeting and kind of receive more student feedback and begin collaborating ways to build our school stronger and also improve that spirit we were talking about. We're currently working on plans for mural and hallway recreation projects to help bring back the sense of school spirit and that energy that we have missed.
Yeah.
Alongside this work, students' mental health has become a major area of focus for all of us. After reviewing results from a recent community surveys, it became clear that many students are seeking additional mental health resources and support. And so in response, ASB students are actively working on ways to expand access and create safe spaces within our school. One of these efforts include launching a student-led podcast that will share mental health resources while also allowing students to speak openly about their experiences. We hope that this allows other students to not only reach out if they need help, but also know that we are a group that just really wants to make the school a better place for all of us. The goal is to have students feel more connected and reassuring that they're not alone. And a lot of the students are also planning small events like a Cocoa with Crayon to help those that are kind of stressed about cramming in for finals, which I'm sure some of us can relate to. And they just kind of want to make a academic, I guess, community, but make sure that that they're being supported as much as possible. Finally, Latinos in Action is preparing to host its annual winter formal. This year, our theme is a winter night in Paris, and the dance will take place on February 14th. Students across all 3 LIA classes are working hard to plan and organize the event, and they're asking for any donations from the community as it would be greatly appreciated. The last thing I want to highlight today is our club, the meeting. Today, I want to focus on Period Club. This is a very important club at the high school. It's a club that focuses on ending period poverty, throughout the school and the community. But on top of that, there are clubs that are extremely supportive to everybody else in the community. Anytime we need some sort of resources or some information, even donations, all of them are actively there to help. They volunteer a lot, and we're really, really thankful for Period Club and just the amazing support that they have to everybody. We would also like to give a big shout out to Zoe Castro, the president, and the team as they continue to support the understanding of female menstruation and raising standard stereotypes. A huge shout out for all they do. And that pretty much wraps up what we've been doing since spring.
Thank you, Maya. So Maya, I really appreciate, in addition to putting together her report for these meetings, we asked that she, if it was in her capacity to start highlighting the specific clubs at the high school at each meeting. And so I really appreciate her willingness to be receptive to that and working with our executive assistant, Bethany Magson, to now provide, I think, a format to do that. But I love having the visual there, and I think that gives us all an idea of the work that's being done.
And I'm working on doing QR codes so that if you're interested and want to support it, it'll also available there too. It's taking me a bit more time.
Yeah, no, I know it's extra time, and we appreciate the time you already spent on top, and so thank you so much. For board reports tonight, I am going to start by acknowledging that our community is continuing to stand together to oppose ICE activities, both statewide and nationwide. I believe there are many in our community who oppose the harm caused by unethical, violent, and illegal immigration enforcement behaviors. Thank you to those community members who rallied last weekend on the corners of 47 out by Ace Hardware to be a physical reminder of the injustices that continue to happen in our community regarding ICE. At last night's council meeting, Mercedes Garcia provided public comment at the Forest Grove City Council meeting that thanked our local law enforcement, the local Indivisible chapter, and the community for their continued support of protecting all in our community. There's so many people who are connected to someone directly who has been impacted It's important to continue to share those stories and speak out against what is happening. Thank you to all the staff and community members who continue to coordinate safety watches, attend town halls, and care for our families and students, not only throughout the break, but every day. I wanted to highlight an upcoming town hall on January 30th at Pacific, which will feature Attorney General Dan Rayfield. This was highlighted in all the newsletters from our local representatives, Rep. McLean and Senator Solomon. It was going to be moderated by Dr. West, and that will be held at Pacific University. And for people that are feeling like they want to do more than what they're doing or just plug in where they can, continuing to come to show up to these events to be informed is very helpful just for all of us to understand where we are and what we can do to support our students and our families. Last month, there's a few moments I would like to highlight in schools. One was attending the Forest Grove High School girls wrestling match versus Century. It was really inspiring. Now the lighting and just the production of sports compared to when, at least way back when I was in sports, is so impressive at how our high schools do that. Really kind of fun to see how supportive and different ways that our coaching staff coach those kids in such a great way. It was just really fun to watch that dynamic. Really like to watch the parents in the crowds who are filming, but mostly the younger kids that were there, especially the girls that could look down on that mat and see strong women just proud to be doing what they're doing. So really loved all of those pieces. I wanted to thank Hillary Barraza, who hosted a poetry slam for her classes right before break and invited the board in to see that, and also had video of those for those of us that couldn't make it in. This is an opportunity to help students bolster their public speaking skills and confidence. There were many presentations that inspired. I mean, they all do, because all these kids are getting up there and reading their poetry. But one in particular that resonated with me was a trio of young women who performed together a poem entitled "I Love My Body." This highlighted all of the differences we see in our own bodies, and I just wanted to thank all of our teachers who continue to make learning challenging for our students, but also relevant and very self-affirming. And finally, the winter concert at Forest Grove High School included a song or two from the beginning high school band. And this is a new opportunity, new-ish, I believe, where students in high school who have never had an opportunity to learn an instrument can take up or try a new instrument. And apparently the beginning band is about 18 students, but on that particular night, only 8 students were attending the concert. And so when the beginning band set up, it was a very, very small group. But what I really appreciated about our band director and just the heart of our music program is the show must go on. And he encouraged everybody in that audience to support these 8 players who were just playing the most basic of songs. And it was just a really fun thing to see and to watch. So I appreciate all the efforts that went into that. And then on a local level, the highlight of this month for us, I believe, was a legislative dinner, which surpassed expected numbers. This is an event we put on each year in our region. It's pretty unique to our region. It brings together all the school boards and all of our legislators and superintendents. We expected 55. We had almost 70 show up. We had legislators, staff, CFOs. Thank you to Director Klute, who came as well. Superintendents from every single district and board members from every one of our districts were there. Dr. West and Mike Schofield presented an up-to-date information regarding the impact of legislative decisions, specifically pointing out to legislators that although in the press, we see that the schools were given an additional, or we were funded at $11.3 billion for a new funding formula. What Mike from Beaverton was able to really break down is where that money has been allocated, and that additional money will not even cover operating costs with rising PERS impacts, recent bargaining, and other inflationary causes. And so we're trying to show our legislators that we are spending that money specifically in ways that we're saying we're spending the money, and we're also trying to show the impact of where we need to be able to have a certain amount of funds to be able to fund certain programs and fund those in ways that we know they need to be completely successful. So starting to really get them to understand why more money doesn't equal more money. I don't, it's difficult, it's a little bit difficult to explain, but I know I saw that, it's not, true, I'm not doing a great job there communicating that. But after that, we were able to sit as a board with our representatives. We were sitting with Rep. McLean and one of Senator Solomon's aides, and we were able to have a conversation, not about particular bills, but the whole theme of those table conversations was how can board members work directly with legislators and superintendents to make sure we're getting all on the same page. And Senator Solomon was at the next table. And I thought, to me, one of the most powerful moments was when she talked about how she can text and reach out to our superintendent directly with questions about legislation, questions about policy. And we know that's a great model for other school boards to be able to want to do, where we can have that direct communication that's timely, that leads us to make better policy and better legislation. So that was the feedback so far that we've received as a regional planning team for that has been overwhelmingly positive. Legislators have felt like they got information about school budgets that they normally wouldn't have access to, and we encourage them to reach out again directly to our CFOs with continued questions. So we really feel like we built a stronger relationship at that very meeting to be able to move forward together in our communication. I want to open up just for a minute to other directors, specifically about your thoughts and feedback. We were all able to attend that evening and open it up to other pieces of feedback that you have.
I thought it was a great opportunity. I mean, it was my first one there, so I don't really have anything to compare it to, but just to know that you expected 50 and we had 70 individuals there. It felt really good. It felt really powerful to know that all of these individuals who are representing their communities were collectively for one goal, which was to promote success in our districts. And so that was something very powerful to be a part of. I'm very grateful.
I thought that Dr. West and Mike Schofield did an excellent job in really breaking down the costs and helping the legislators understand that each of the school districts may have different issues, but they're still all suffering with the deficit spending, and that was really loud and clear. The presentation was excellent, so thank you.
Couple of things that stuck with me. One is that was the first time I had seen, Mr. Schofield used to be here in Forest Grove. And that was the first time I had seen him since he left. And it was, I was reminded that he and the then superintendent, Jack Musser, and assistant superintendent, Dave Lord, have a picture somewhere in the archives here in this office or in the district of them wearing wrestling singlets. And that is not a pleasant sight to look at. Still, I think for a number of dollars, you could probably get from Mr. Schofield, Musser, and Willard to not ever let that picture see the light of day. But on a more serious note, it was pleasant to have Mike explain some of the items that we are dealing with as far as the amount of money that is derived from our state income taxes and goes into the general fund. It's an involved process. I am most appreciative of Ms. Flute. I do not want her job. It is a tough thing to do, especially when the forecast comes back and the legislature says we're cutting X amount of dollars. How you do it is up to you, but these are some of the limitations. I do want to make one other comment about something that just drives me absolutely up the wall. And it also did that when I was in civic service over at City Hall. The ever popular unfunded mandate is something that the legislature has to understand is not a workable item will lead us over the cliff. If we do not pay attention, if the legislature does say, here, you take care of it, reminds me of the sheriff, the mayor in Carter country who says, handle it, handle it. And I showed my age on that one. But the point that I'm getting at is that if the legislature is going to be holding the purse strings, legislature has to be part of the conversation and part of the solution. And there are days where frankly, the legislature is not part of the solution. The legislature is, in my opinion, adding to the problem. And we need to have a heart to heart. And I'm not the first person to say this, and I won't be the last, but we continue to keep the heat on. Legislature may get the idea sooner or later that education is education is the most important thing this state does. Those kids in those classrooms are our future. And if we don't get that, then all the other work we do on economic development, on infrastructure, and all of those things aren't going to mean as much if we don't have an educated society coming up. And that's our job. To work with those kids, and the legislature's job is to make our job a little bit easier. I've talked way too long. I apologize.
No, sir, I would concur with all that you said there. I've said it here before when we've talked about this, the question I continue to ask our legislators and our Board of Education and our Oregon Department of Education is who is setting the vision for what Oregon education is going to look like. And those questions are still being asked, and there's just not clarity. I was disappointed to see in Governor Kotek's progress report that came out. I had to look on the first page to see where education was mentioned, and then I had to link to a second page where education was mentioned. And the one piece that was highlighted was that the cell phone bill was the piece of legislation that is going to affect student outcomes. And there's work we need to do as school board members to continue to have conversations with our legislators and the governor about, and again, this is me, but I do think I've heard this echoed in all kinds of different boards across the state. Politics aside, conversations about I keep saying Mayor Truax. I know it's just a habit, but that Director Truax said that that needs to be the priority in discussion, and the questions need to be, where are we headed? So I think our board will continue to bring that message forward and hope for legislators to carry that forward as well.
I just wanted to add something, is, the response, I was so overwhelming in the legislative dinner. And it said to me that the board members, the superintendent, and everybody there really understands how serious this is. And I think there's a momentum there, and I really think there's only so many legislators here in our Washington County. Somehow we need to go down to the Salem and for a day, educators across the state, and explain to them, exactly the finances, like what Mrs. Clute has done with our business manager, so that they can really see the numbers. And then in the afternoon, we have a discussion about, these are our priorities. But what's happening, we have a momentum now, and what's happening is what is happening in Southern Oregon, what's happening in Eastern Oregon, and those legislators don't know. I know our issues are different. I mean, Washington County has a very high number of ICE in this community, which is a big issue, where maybe in Southeast or Southwest Oregon does not. So I think I would like to really see somehow we get and go to Salem, because it's not just Washington County, it's the whole state. And some of the issues are the same, special ed, and we're all deficit spending. So I know it's a short session, but boy, I'd like us to see us go down.
I know we're gonna continue to talk as a board about our engagement. Legislative priorities are on our agenda. I will ask Dr. West her thoughts about that night as well, and then probably like segue into your superintendent report. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. So thank you for all those comments regarding the legislative dinner. It was very productive from my seat, and similar to what you expressed, I heard nothing but positive feedback from superintendents, board directors, from legislators who have attended many of these events. A lot of positive feedback. So I think there's some energy around this event, and specifically some energy around the conversation for how we might do things a little bit differently going forward. We shouldn't expect that we will always agree, but we should expect that we can have conversation. And we can express disagreements openly and respectfully. And what I have learned through this process of working to organize these events is that there are many of us who don't even have the conversation to start the dialogue around what is important to the school district, what is important to a legislator, how do we come to some common agreement. So I'm really excited to see that move forward. And I will jump into my comments. Thank you for that. I actually want to take us to the enrollment report, which should pop up if we advance there. There we are. So this is a report that is shared with the school board every month. It's in the board packet. It's brought to the first board meeting each month. There are two graphics that I'm gonna walk us through here. It's familiar to most people on the board, but I want to spend just a minute here orienting those who may not be familiar. This shows us average class size for kindergarten and then grade bands 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in the high school. You'll note that the weighted average class size applies only to our secondary schools, and that's because there's a prep period at those levels, so we take that into consideration in the calculations. The next column, series of columns, are what we budgeted. And then you can see in the final column there on the right-hand side, that's the variance between the number of students that we actually have enrolled at the time this report was generated and what we budgeted. As a district, we are currently 78 students below our budget. If you recall, for those of us who were here last year, we ended the year somewhere around 130, 140 students below our budget. Now, the state of Oregon smooths enrollment in the funding formula, and what that means is that over the course of a 2-year period, they choose to higher the two enrollment numbers so that the district doesn't get slammed with a significant reduction in a particular biennium. That said, we've seen declining enrollment for a while now. So this negative enrollment number combined with what we saw last year is projected to result in about $1.5 million less than we have been receiving. So that is on top of the already structural deficit that exists between what school districts like ours are allocated and what it actually costs us to conduct business. If you go to the second slide, thank you, Enrique. This is similar information, but it's broken down a little bit differently. So this breaks it down by school rather than by grade band, but we still have actual budget variance. And then in the last right-hand columns there, it's also broken down in different categories that exist within our schools for staff. So class size based on instruction, but then you can also see the instructional arts, PE, office support, and it gives you some idea of how many adults we have in the system to how many students. If you look down at the very bottom where it says total students per FTE in grades K-6, we have 7 students for every 1.0 FTE in our system. Grade 7, 8, we have 9, 9, 12, we have 11, and then overall we have 8.
we will not be able to sustain that with the projected budget reductions that we have in front of us. Just briefly, in addition to the enrollment reductions that we're seeing, the state is forecasting that we'll see a mid-biennium reduction of some sort. As a reminder, the state is forecasting a $600 million shortfall. That may change based on the next revenue forecast for the state, but that's what we're using as our planning principle right now. In addition to that, the federal government is forecasting either a reduction or complete elimination of federal grants. And that will certainly have an impact on us as well. So we're monitoring this very closely. We do not want to reduce staff, and staff is our greatest expense. So we'll keep the board informed, we'll keep the community informed as we start to move into our budgeting process. That's going to kick off there pretty soon. And then we'll get into the details. Any questions before I move off of this? Yes.
Why is the number at Joseph Gale 56? I mean, that's a high number. Is it 56? Yeah,
The number of students
yeah,
below projection.
yeah.
I would need to dig into that to give you the exact answer. I can tell you what is affecting our enrollment. It's also affecting our attendance this year. Immigration is certainly having an impact on enrollment. For Joseph Gale, they're at about 70% Latino population. And I'm looking out in the audience to make sure, okay, 70% Latino population at Joseph Gale. And we have a couple of other schools that are even higher than that within our district. And the immigration enforcement that's taking place in that area is having an impact. Beyond that, I would need to dig into the actual data to tell you why we have that imbalance. Other questions? A couple more things, and then we move off this. I want to go back to what Maya said about visiting with the high school students. That was a joy. It was the second day back from winter break, and it was an absolute pleasure to sit and visit with you and your peers at the high school. One of the things that I wanted to highlight, there's a lot that we can point to that's happening in our community, in our country, that is hard. It's frustrating. I've heard people use words like fear and despair. After that conversation with the high school students, I left with a lot of hope. There are some hard things that we are navigating right now. You and your classmates are going to take care of that. I have no doubt about that. So thank you for spending the time with me that morning. It was incredible. And I want you to know that we took really good notes. I shared back with the high school students what I had heard, and I thought, well, I don't want to come in here with that big long list. So I summarized, I think, what I heard, and you can tell me, Maya, if I'm close to this. The big idea that I walked away with is that students come to school when they feel safe, connected, and they're engaged in something that really matters to them. When school feels rigid or boring or disconnected from the lives of students, they stay away. And the themes that really stuck out for me are belonging, engagement, and meaning. And that is where we need to focus our effort. How'd I do? That's okay. All right. Great. Couple of other school highlights. I was able to visit Cornelius Elementary School and visit with our pre-K staff there. I think it's with the slide there. So these are a delight. So these are emotion monsters. I had to take a picture of these because it was a really good reminder for me, and I think it's a good reminder for those of us who don't spend every day with 4-year-olds, that emotions need to be explicitly taught. And one of the things that is taking place in our schools where there are preschools and very young students like kindergarten or first graders, our educators and support staff are spending time with students, helping them identify and name what they are feeling, and then also having conversations around what do you do with that? So if you are feeling sad, like the blue monster up there with the frowny face, what do you do with that sadness? How do you regulate that? And that is so critical to the development of these very young students, both in their academic progression through our system, but also for the adult life that they will eventually step into once they graduate from high school. So I wanted to highlight this because there's certainly academics going on, and we can't have academics if we're not teaching alongside that. The really important pro-social and emotional literacy skills that we all need. And then the last highlight that I want to bring up from school perspective, I stopped by Tuolumne Plains High School earlier in the week. Well, I guess that would have just been yesterday.
Feels like.
Yeah, so I stopped by Tuolumne Plains High School, and Stephen Bernard, who is one of the teachers there, who does some really creative and fun things. He had invited several community members in to do some mock interviews. So Russ Peters, Howard Sullivan, and John Schrag, who have volunteers in our schools for a long period of time. They were there meeting with students and working students through some mock interview questions. And these are young people just about ready to graduate. They're going to move into whether it be college or trade school or a career. These are the kind of skills that are going to help them step into that next chapter of their life. But I wanted to highlight how critical it is that we have these volunteers in our schools and the important work that they do. Our educators have a lot on their plates, our support staff handle a lot. And so to have volunteers come in and fill some of those gaps and bring some of their expertise, these are all community members who have hired and been in the workforce a long time. They know how to coach and mentor our young people so that they can find the jobs that they're looking for out of high school. So I encourage anyone who's watching, if you want to get involved in our schools, call our schools, talk to the office staff, talk to the principals. We have volunteer opportunities available. So with that, we'll turn it back to you, Chair.
All right, we do not have a presentation from Forest Grove Education Association tonight. I'm going to move on to unscheduled public appearance. We do have one. I will say that the board appreciates community members sharing information during public comments. Public comments can be made in person or through Zoom by submitting the designated form on the webpage. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, as is the protocol for board meetings. Board members will not comment or respond to questions. Public criticism or complaints about school district personnel are not allowed. And I'll look to Bethany.
Brian Schimmel, you can come right up here.
Welcome, Brian. If you could state your name and address, that's his name and importance. No.
Good evening, Board of Directors and Dr. West. It's a privilege to be here. Not here as a parent any longer since my adult kids have already journeyed through the school district. But I am here as a lonesome city councilor, actually to return the favor for Chair Kaki's continued participation in our city council. So thank you, Chair. The timeliness of being here is that just last night we took 2 measures regarding immigration. We passed a resolution to extend our state of emergency due to the impacts of immigration enforcement through the balance of 2026. We also passed an ordinance that codifies sanctuary city into our city charter. And I think where it's relevant to the board is we put it on the resolution to extend the emergency. We put a pin on additional funds or new measures until we have a work session in 2 weeks to discuss as a council what provisions we want to extend or what additional money we want to put forward and for what eligible purposes. So what I want to encourage is some consideration over what provisions are relevant at this moment for our children and for the schools to provide better public safety. And I have made an appeal, Dr. West, to have you invited for the discussion. That's at the discretion of my colleagues. So if there's at least something prepared written that we could consider along with other civic leaders. We welcome that, but I find it, essential that, we're making every attempt to restore public safety, curb the loss of life. We understand that there continues to be instances that we want to slow or reverse. But we understand things are escalating pretty rapidly. So I certainly welcome your advice on what we can do as a council. Thank you.
Counselor. We are on to consent agenda. The consent agenda is made up of routine, non-controversial items to be voted on under one motion. Are there any items within the consent agenda a board member or the superintendent wishes to discuss separately? Seeing none.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and we are on to our first presentation of the evening, the National Board Certification with Joseph Gale Principal. Mariella, welcome.
Do you want me up here?
Yes, please.
Hi. Come on up, team.
And team.
Well, good evening. I have an amazing opportunity to work with Miss Sands. And so so we're excited to share that Erin Sands, a kindergarten teacher at Joseph Gale Elementary School, has earned a national board certification in early childhood literacy for reading and language arts. The National Board Certification is the most respected professional credential in education. It represents a rigorous reflective process that recognizes accomplished teaching, and a deep commitment to student learning. Achieving the certification requires sustained analysis of practice, evidence of impact, and a strong focus on instructional excellence. With Erin's certification, our Forest Grove School District now has 5 teachers who are nationally board certified, which helps strengthen the profession and elevate instructional practices across our schools and positively impact learning for all students district-wide. I know our district remains committed to continuing its efforts for educators pursuing the National Board Certification, recognizing this work as a powerful investment in instructional excellence and an effective way to serve all students. We want to congratulate Erin for this and for this outstanding professional accomplishment. We do have a little award that we're going to hand her in a goodie bag that Miss Monica put together for her because she's amazing like that. So here you go. Congratulations. And I know right now I have another teacher at Joseph Gale that's also working towards that, and super excited to be a part of this process. So congratulations.
Congratulations. I did speak with Erin before the meeting to ask if she would talk a little bit about the process and what it meant to her. This is such a rare certification to have as a teacher. I think you had met, and would you also introduce the other teachers?
Sorry. So we've got Sienna Garrett, who's our literacy specialist, who is also nationally board certified and works at Joseph Gale. And then Christina Meinica, who's her student success coach, who is also a Joseph Gale teacher back in her day and also nationally board certified. So Joseph Gale is the place to be if you want to go to that process.
One of you had mentioned the percentage of teachers. Would you be able to share that briefly?
Less than 3% of all teachers in the United States are nationally board certified. And in our state, we have less than 1%. In fact, it's less than half of a percentage point of educators. So less than 300 educators in the state of Oregon are nationally board certified.
So with that, Erin, could you talk about your motivation to go through this process and what was challenging and what was maybe your biggest takeaway?
Motivation was hearing about it from that one every year since I've known her. And then finally, I just decided, okay, I'm going to do this. was challenging. There are 4 components to it. You're allowed 3 years to complete all 4 components. I jumped in and attempted all 4 components my first year trying last year, missed by just a few points. So she talked me into keeping trying, and my family back there, husband and daughter. They're like, let's keep trying. I redid 1 component this year on December 6th. Actually, it was December 5th, 9 o'clock at night. Found out that I had scored high enough on that 1 component to get those last few points. I always thought I was reflective and analytical until going through this process. And you have to dive really deep into why you're doing what you're doing and what those choices were, and then be able to explain it to other people. And it has really helped. I found myself this year, I go to Mariela a lot saying, can we try this? Can we try this? I think our students will benefit from it, and just trying a lot of new things now because I went through that process. So.
And I think that's one of the things that we hear about this certification is not only the challenge it is for the individual teacher, but the gratitude as a board that we would feel because of the ripple effect of what you just talked about is how both of you and even teachers that are around you hearing about the process, how it changes how you think about things. I'm really thankful on behalf of our board for all of your work towards that. Also, would you introduce your family? Because that's a big piece of having a support system for someone going through that work is key.
Yes, that's why I wanted them here. My husband, Ben, and then our daughter, Natalie, is in 2nd grade. And
Ben and Natalie, thank you for being here tonight. Erin, can you talk about a specific thing that's changed in your teaching practice that you've noticed because of it? I don't know, I didn't prep you for, but.
I am finding myself paying a lot more attention to what the students are doing and how they're responding to the different activities and lessons that I'm doing, and how I can change it to improve it for them and make them more successful and gaining the skills and concepts that are being presented. So it's just really paying more attention to the students and their outcomes than I was before, a lot more.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I understand that you want to take a picture and I think we should, but before that, Erin, I want to throw out there, this is an incredible accomplishment and you should feel a lot of pride for what you've done. As has been mentioned already, I think there's tremendous benefit to our students and your colleagues for this. And I want to highlight the commitment to practice. It takes a great deal of effort and humility to step into a journey like this and to really work on the improvement of practice. And so I want to elevate that because I think you deserve a lot of credit for that. It's not an easy task to undertake. Yeah. Should we take a picture?
Well, I wanted to ask if there are any other questions or comments that board members had.
Of course.
I think I'm just excited for your newfound knowledge to be spread as it already has been. I think that's something I look forward to for yourself and for our district. Thank you for going through all of that, because I know it was.
Yes, thank you. I spent a few years in the classroom here in the Forest Grove School District. I did not teach at the elementary level. I taught in middle school and high school. And I thought that was where the rubber met the road. After I retired and was teaching student teachers at Pacific, for some unknown reason, they decided to put me as an evaluator of an elementary student teacher in the elementary classrooms. And I went in and you guys, if you screw up, we can't fix it at the middle school and the high school.
That's true.
There is no way. You put the foundation together. You take that empty-headed kid, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, and you throw the ability to read. You throw the ability to compute. You throw the ability to think rationally into that child's brain. And then we get to sharpen it and hone it at the other levels. But if you don't do your job, we can't do ours. So you are, and don't tell my wife I said this, but you guys are the key to education. She seems to think that elementary teachers are great, and we would have dinner table conversation.
And I'd like to add that the 5 people that have been certified, it just really shows the commitment in our community and how each one of you support the next person. And our children really, really benefit. And the sense of community and colleagues talking to each other and sharing and, building each other up. That's what makes Forest Grove so special. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I actually like to add, just yesterday in my education class, we learned all about this exam. Really, I was shaking in my boots about it. Like you're also certified, so she's gonna do a whole journey, and again, I cried in front of me for her. But really, those early years of paint mention are extremely important, so seeing you take the time and just really show how much passion you have is I don't think this thing to be proud of. And it's people like you that make me feel like relieved, because my little sister is going into school soon, and I know that she's gonna have just full of passion like that. So really congratulations, and something to be extremely proud of. And like we also mentioned, the kids are our future. So yes, again, congratulations.
Thank you. You want to bring your family up?
This way.
I think we should also let them do this for us to do that.
Why don't we step over here?
There we go. Stretch your knees. I'll take the picture. Come on.
That's.
I think that.
Able to get in there.
Yeah, Ben and. Yeah, that's. Oh, it's sitting down. We're not. It's so bad. It's not bad. Not nice. Thank you. Perfect. Let's put the board certified in the front, yeah, and the family.
We're gonna do 2 separate.
Oh, what?
We're gonna do a group here, and then we do a separate one.
Yeah, bring the family in for the second picture.
All right, okay. Yeah.
I stand behind you today. I stand the holiday. Never have I ever said that. Every day you go big skin people.
Well, what about?
I know, but I mean, you have to take a picture.
Hey, take a smoke break. Yeah. It'll be a while.
1, 2.
All right.
Family. And all animals. All Natalie. Oh, yes, you are.
No, it's okay. You're good. We'll just give you that. There you go. That's perfect.
You make sure that all the scores. Okay. 1, 2, 3. We usually sort of smile. Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Presentation. Really excited. The next slide. All right. Different about it. Well, I mean, not. That's true. We left. I thought this all right, we are almost up to action items, but we do have a surprise item that's on the agenda. It's not a surprise, it was on the agenda, but school board appreciation. I'm gonna pass it to Dr. West.
Great, thank you. Yeah, it shouldn't be a surprise. It's January. Would you advance the slide, please? Thank you. So I have a few remarks, and then we have some gifts that I'd like to talk through. Before we get to those gifts, I just want to stop and say thank you. To start with, because the work you do is volunteer work. You're not getting paid to do this. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of wrapping your heads around school district stuff. And for those of you who weren't teachers, maybe have worked in a school district, it's a lot to take in. It's also a chance to recognize, I think, something that takes place typically quietly in the background. And that is the role of a school board to ensure that public education remains exactly that it remains public, that it's locally governed, and that it's focused on students. And this is a board that understands that and advocates for that both at the local level, but also at the state level. And I appreciate for this board in particular that advocacy is informed. You are in our schools, you are talking to our community, you're talking to our students, you're talking to our staff. So when you are sharing what is taking place at Forest Grove School District, you're talking from what you have actually seen and experienced. And that is powerful. So tonight, our students and our schools, they wanted to offer some tokens of appreciation, not just because they capture what you do, but also because every one of those gifts up there carry great gratitude. And I think you saw that from the Viking Cafe, and certainly by the heartfelt thanks that we'll send home with you here. I do want to make a special note that as we look at your gifts here, the cutting boards, they were made by the cabinetry class, but these are very special cutting boards. They were made from the walnut tree that was removed from school district property. So that tree was salvaged and now being put to good use as a cutting board in your kitchens very soon. So happy School Board Appreciation Month, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you so much. Yeah, really excited about the personal gifts and the personal touch from the Viking Cafe. And thank you for the kind words and for the work as well, Bethany, that you did on this. All right. We are going to move on to action items. Number one is Forest Grove High School JV baseball field reconstruction with Director Clute.
Good evening. Tonight we have the reconstruction of the JV baseball field at Forest Grove High School. Right now it has some significant safety concerns with the holes and the drainage, and it's not playable most of the year. And so our goal is to have a solid, safe and playable surface by next August and utilize the summer months to reconstruct that. Pacific Sports Turf, utilizing the KCDA purchasing agreement, provided us a quote for $65,925. And we are also truly grateful for our community partners who have also agreed to contribute to this renovation. Our goal is to get 40% community match, and we're already at $21,000 between the Viking Booster Club, Forest Grove Baseball, and Youth Baseball. So there's about 6,000 left, but we are almost there. The rest would be funded by bond interest.
Questions?
I move to approve the Pacific Sports Turf to complete the Forest Grove High School JV baseball field repair for $65,925.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to. This community piece is very important to me. I would hope that members of the board, and I include myself in this, would go to the various service organizations in this community. I am a member of the Daybreak Rotary Club, and one of the things I'm going to be doing is asking them to look into their foundation monies for an opportunity to be a part of this operation. When I was athletic director back in ancient history, one of my dreams was that someday we would get those fields lighted so that we would be able to play night baseball, so that we would not miss as much time in school as we do for those athletics. And that is, again, beside the point, we're not going to be putting lights in on this, in my understanding. But somewhere down the road, we might want to be looking at, again, that community partnership. And that also, as part of my increasing role as a member of the city's Park and Rec Commission, because I was appointed by you people, I would hope that we could increase the partnership with the city for summer recreation programs utilizing those facilities on a year-round basis. That would, again, benefit the entire community of Forest Grove. I'll shut up.
Okay. Well stated. I'm gonna do an all in favor, say aye vote. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. And we are on to Forest Grove High School baseball out-of-state trip request with Dr. West.
Yes, thank you. The Forest Grove High School baseball team has submitted an overnight trip request to compete in the spring break tournament in Phoenix, Arizona. This is an annual trip. This year, the trip will take place between March 19th and March 23rd. The total cost of the event will be approximately $30,800 with a maximum out-of-pocket expense to players of $600. The team is actively engaged in fundraising programs, so that amount will come down substantially. And payment plan options are available to families if they cannot afford the cost of out-of-pocket. Questions?
Motion to approve the Forest Grove High School baseball's out-of-state trip request to Phoenix, Arizona from March 19th, 2026 through March 23rd of 2026.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, same thing on this one. Again, let the community organizations, let the community know that this is an opportunity to benefit those kids. And to me, baseball is the greatest game in the world. I will get teary-eyed talking about it, so do tell me to shut up on this one. But this is an opportunity again to let those kids experience not only baseball, but also another part of our country. Arizona is not exactly Oregon. And getting the opportunity to see what this great land can offer, I think is also a priceless opportunity. And if you need to send a school board chaperone to this, I have a candidate in mind. That's a joke, okay? I'm not serious.
I told you half a joke. So
Yeah.
he must really love baseball because the only other time I seen a tear in his eye is when he accepted an award at League of Oregon Cities and was talking about his amazing wife. So baseball, amazing wife, cheers. All right, any other comments? Discussion, were we on discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, we were. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. And first read, we're on to first read.
We do have one more
Oh,
out-of-state trip request.
you're right. It's Decca.
Yeah.
Sorry, Decca, if you're watching. Okay,
So Forest Grove High School DECA officers are requesting an overnight trip to the International DECA Competition and Conference. It's in Atlanta, Georgia this year. And it takes place from April 24th to April 29th. The total cost for the trip is $14,410, and currently students are responsible for $1,400 each. So you mentioned fundraising and community support. This is a group that could use some of that as well. They are actively fundraising, but they have a greater gap to cover than our baseball team right now. So we'll monitor that. And if there are community groups that you know that may want to contribute to that, we can connect them to the right people to make donations for this trip.
any questions?
Madam Chair, I move to approve the Forest Grove High School DECA out-of-state trip request to Atlanta, Georgia from April 24th, 2026 through the 29th of April, 2026.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, one question. How do we go about knowing what the fundraising events are, or like for any of these group fundraisers?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is something that we can share with the board. We'll get that information from DECA. In their case, it's a club. For the athletics, we can get that information to you as well. We can talk to our athletic director and ask them what they're doing. Share that with the board.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we're gonna move on to legislative short session priorities with Dr. West.
Yes, thank you. This is being brought forward a second time for action, as was shared last time. We did this last year with the long session where we identified several legislative priorities. This is a short session. It's much more rapid, more focused. And we presented here to the board this draft so that during that very brief period of time that we have to work with our legislators, we can be as effective and efficient as possible. So as a reminder, two key areas of focus for us as a school board, if the school board approves this. The first is stable and adequate public education funding. There are several different categories there, one of which we've talked about tonight, like no new unfunded mandates, please. And then the second category is related to the accountability measures that have been a topic of conversation in the state for quite some time. And as we have discussed, there's nobody in a school district that is opposed to accountability. We just want the accountability to make sense. Especially given the unique context that every district brings, like ours, where so many of our students are learning simultaneously in two languages.
Comments on, I know our board has had time to look at this as a draft. I also know one of our board commitments this year was to advocacy work. We just had that legislative dinner. And I think we've talked before about potentially some kind of a work session where we really can take pending this passing and work together on what this is gonna look like to operationalize for us. And I
point of the order,
Oh, yes.
a motion before discussion, a motion before discussion.
oh, wait,
I move to approve the 2026 legislative priorities as presented.
Second.
any discussion? I have something. Thank you, Dr. Watson. Well, I would say that this is the trend of these meetings, like the last few things, maybe in addition, the cookie, the hot chocolate. I don't know, it's all adding to that, but thank you for your grace in that. Yes, so I like this as it stands. I did share this with all board chairs. As I mentioned at the last meeting, our board chairs got together for the first time ever, and we're gonna get together again on February 2nd. At that time, the first meeting, I did float a draft of this since it was public to board chairs with the idea that eventually our region could land together on some similar talking points and a document. We're not quite there with that conversation with chairs, but I think really they all were nodding in agreement of understanding that maybe that is where we're headed. What I really appreciate about this is the clarity and the simplicity and the talking points that were attached. What I would like to do, or I need to do myself, is have some practice, and maybe that's in a work session, with what that conversation looks like. Because I find that when I come to explain to people in the community or explaining a short blurb of what we're all about, or even up here on the dais, I still can't find my words to be succinct. I really appreciate Dr. West, your work, and again, the numbers, Director Clute, thank you, and the formatting to give us what we need. That's just personally what I feel like I need. In addition to that, defining as a board, what are we gonna do going forward between now and June? What can we commit to? What does that look like? So those are my initial thoughts. As far as this document, I like the layout with the talking points on the back. And I'd like to hear other thoughts about whether we're on track with this, or do we need to be more specific, less specific, add something, take away, how are we doing?
I think it's very good. I think it's concise, clear, it's not overwhelming. And I think think when you meet with the people and the other, board chairs, their input also, we could, add or delete from this, but I think it's a good starting point.
Director Trends.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will second and follow up on what Director Andusky has given us. It is crucial that school districts, school boards go to Salem with a unified message. There are certain basics that each kid in this state needs. And it's our responsibility to deliver them. I understand that there are differences throughout the state. For example, there may be very urban high schools that, for a variety of reasons, may not support, and that's a lousy word, focus on such things as FFA. Because the vast majority of their population may not be agriculturally oriented. But here in Forest Grove and in many school districts in Eastern Oregon and down in the valley, FFA is a crucial part. And those school districts have to unify and go down there and grab the legislators by the ears and shake them until they understand that that is a crucial part of education. And Dr. West talked about being connected to the schools. And that's why kids go to school, because they get connected. Sometimes they get connected through algebra. Sometimes they get connected through drama. Sometimes they get connected through following the janitor around and helping him or her. And sometimes it's programs such as DECA, such as FFA. Those are key programs for that particular student, that particular family. And to have somebody dismiss them, such as what has happened with the Oregon Department of Education's look at what may happen to various programs across the state in the event of budget cuts is disconcerting and disappointing. And I would hope that this document, this two-page document that has been fashioned by Dr. West and her staff here would help us focus on things that the state of Oregon needs to do. Secure and stable funding. There has to be a serious discussion in the legislature about that. They cannot kick that can down the road anymore. Special education. We have students in this district and in every district in the state of Oregon that learn in different ways. Not in the traditional way that I may have been exposed to when I was growing up, or that I may have used when I was teaching. And those tools for those students need to be sharpened, need to be developed, and need to be delivered. We saw an example of that tonight. So those are, and we see other programs, two that stick in my mind, are Head Start, which I think is the single most important educational act of the 20th century. And something that seems fairly minor, Start Making a Reader Today, which is a community-driven program where people from the community come in and help students, help teachers, help students learn to read. And that program's on the chopping block as we look forward. That to me is impermissible. But this document gives me hope. And if we can take this document and get other school districts, I won't say to march on Salem with torches, but to march on Salem with torches. To get the idea that this is not a game, it never has been. And, it's very serious right now, and I've talked way too long and I apologize. There you go.
Thank you, Director Truax. Other thoughts? Director Franco on,
I think it's a well-organized document. I think that is a true reflection of not only what our district needs, but what our student needs are. And like Director Truax stated, I am very hopeful and hopeful that other districts will also be in agreement with where we're headed.
I do think, one of the things we talked about at the regional meeting and chairs will also talk about is taking, for instance, the talking points so that when we're throwing out a number from Forest Grove, that we also are prepared to share a number from Banks and a number from Gaston. And we were able to start doing that last year, and that's our local superintendent group really doing great collaboration with CFOs to create a conversation about those numbers. But at the regional dinner, that is what we heard from Rep. McLean is we want you to put together these numbers. And in all fairness, we have put together the numbers and they've been here and we've been sharing those loud and clear. So I think we're on the right track for our advocacy. And with that, it sounds like we're ready to maybe take a vote. Did we have a motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody. I think first read is there. Do we need to talk about first read?
Yes,
Please do.
if I may, this is very quick. You take a look at the materials that are presented. These are the proposed services that our Northwest Regional ESC would like to offer as core services. School districts' core services are those that are included within our plan for every single school district that the ESC supports. And then there are pay for service programs as well, and those are listed separately. So as you review the materials, if you would like to talk through any of the services that the ESC is proposing, please feel free to send me a message and I'd be happy to talk through that with you.
All right, there being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 6:50. Put another point on.
Put another point of order.
There's the.
Is there